sometimes myself. Everything I have found here, I've not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts, I've no need for any more. 'Cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you and me.
Hello everybody, my name is Uber and I welcome you back. Today I would like to talk about The Last of Us 2 and what I think about this game and why I think that people are overreacting to it. So let me start off by saying that you shouldn't judge The Last of Us 2 in the perspective of The Last of Us 2. Don't judge the game only by that game. Judge the whole story. The Last of Us 1, The Last of Us Left Behind, and The Last of Us 2. Because those two games and DLC are showing a history. They're showing the history of one girl, Ellie, who she loved, who she hated, who took care of her, who she was taking care of. And that is a very, very cool story if you look at the whole of it. But what is also important to understand is that we are judging people in the world of The Last of Us from our perspective. We might be saying that we live in a very shitty world, like 2020 is so shitty, like it could have been worse, but like god damn it. But it's nothing compared to what is going on with their world. Like, come on. Their world is just so much more shitty than ours. We have disease that is killing a bunch of people, right? And in their world, that disease killed so much more people. Like millions, billions. Like, goddamn it, we couldn't even imagine that number. And because of that, it is not like in a fairy tale that you've got the good characters and bad characters. Everyone's bad and good at one point or another, or even just they are in between them. Because to survive, to grab something that they can't, that they can survive without, that they just need, to do something that they need to survive, they have to do pretty shitty stuff, right? And I think that when we are judging this game, we are not thinking about it. So let me go a little bit back and let's talk about those both games and the DLC. So The Last of Us 1 and the DLC Left Behind is talking about journey. Journey both in the terms of distance on the map and also journey in the means that it's changing people. Because we have journey with Joel and Ellie for the most part of the game as they're traveling across the America to fireflies, to symbol of hope. And because of that, I think that this game is concerned about that journey and hope. Those are the most important factors in this game. And during that journey through the United States, those characters are also changing, their relationship, how they are talking to each other, and so on and so on. Joel had pretty rough past, right? We didn't know in the first game, and I don't think that it was told in the second game, what he was doing before Apocalypse. But we have idea about what was going on after the apocalypse, what he was doing to survive. He was not only smuggler, he killed people, he was setting up traps, and so on. So he was pretty shitty guy. But we were seeing him in this situation when he was taking care of that child, of that girl, Ellie. And yeah, the relationship was rough, but he was taking care of her. And because of that, he cared about her, and probably because she reminded him of his daughter, Sarah, that was killed in the beginning of the game. I think that's the main motive when he was rescuing her from the hospital. So we can kind of look at it from different perspectives also. That action of saving Ellie from the hospital, it's pretty shitty if you look about it from the perspective of humanity. Like, she was probably, we didn't confirm that or deny that, but she was probably the only immune person, at least in the United States, right? And also, that we learned in the second game, the doctor that Joel killed, was probably the only one that was able to make that vaccine. So pretty shitty. But the game is pointing to a different perspective, to the perspective of those individual humans that were in this situation. We know Marlene, that it was really rough for her because she was taking care of Ellie, right? From the perspective of Joel, that, well, he loved Ellie, right? He was taking care of her, and she reminded him of Sarah. So, and they had a very strong relationship, right? So that's naturally that he wanted to save her. And third person involved in that, at least from the perspective of the first game, is Ellie. And she is talking on and on and on to Joel that he saved her and so on. It's very shitty. But she is saying that in the future, right? Joel didn't have enough time to react, to think about it, right? He was acting as his heart told him to do so, right? And because Ellie didn't have a choice there, right? They were just putting her on the table and preparing the knives to open her up. There was no choice there. So it's really hard to judge that action. If they woken her up from that coma or whatever state she was in and talked about it with her, right? Ask her if she is accepting that she will die, or she will deny it. Sorry, I cannot do it, or something like that. That was a very shitty situation. But it's also very hard to judge, right? And we cannot really judge it from our perspective, as I was saying, right? We are living in a completely different world. And that is why that second game might be so shocking for most of people, right? Because second game is about consequences of that one single action that set off on one shit train that was going on through the whole second game. And let me explain it a little bit better. So I think that second game is about vengeance and love. And there are very different aspects of love. Like, I could go on and go on about it. But let's just say that you can love different people, right? You can love your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. You can love your parents, sister, brother, grandparents, whatever, right? You have that relationship with some people, right? And it was showing up pretty often in the second game, we had those different relationships with Ellie and Dina and Jess, with Tommy and Maria, with Owen and Abby, with Owen and Mel. Like, there was a little bit of that stuff. And it was very interesting to see as those characters were developing, right? We had this complex situation between Abby, Mel, and Owen. It was really weird to watch because, like, Owen was a really nice guy, but he was cheating on Mel with Abby, and Mel was pregnant. Like, it was kind of weird. But as I said, it's really hard to judge, but because we are judging from our perspective, our standards, right? And maybe that is also possible that many people don't like the game because there is love that is showing us something different, like love between Ellie and Dina. So we've got lesbian characters. So some people don't like that, right? Or we have Aleph, the person that was transsexual, right? He was called before Lily, and then he shaved his head and changed the name to Lev, and so on and so on. It was so subtle, like, god damn it. When I didn't notice that when I was playing. I only noticed that when I was rewatching that episode, and there was that one dialogue that they called him Lily. I was like, what? What is that all about? And then a little bit after that, Yara is telling about it to Abby, right? But it's not direct. It doesn't feel like something forced, because I often feel like when I am watching some movies or playing games that are having those feminist characters, lesbian characters, gay characters, transsexual, whatever, that they are not doing it to tell the story, but to grab more audience from those, more of those people. Like, I know their perspective might be like, we have lesbian characters, so more lesbian people would join us, right? Something like that. And most of the times it feels forced. But with those characters, it was feeling really, really natural. Both at the Last of Us Left Behind and the second game. It was really subtle, really natural way of doing that. And because of that, I'm not thinking that Naughty Dog did that to impress somebody or something like that. They did it to tell the story. And they had balls to do it. Like, god damn it. They had balls to do pretty weird stuff, right? Like kill Joel, the character that so many people loved from the first game. Like, god damn it. As I said in my Let's Play, there are not many people who could have done that game better. But even from those people, I don't think that they would have balls to do something like that. Like, killing Joel, like controlling character that killed Joel and learning her story. That is very, very weird. But I think that it is very important to see that people that we are playing as are not heroes. They are normal people in a very shitty world. So sometimes they are doing pretty weird stuff, pretty bad stuff, pretty shitty stuff, right? But that's the way that world is living, is doing, is constructed. There's just no other way. Either you are brutal and you kill people infected and so on, or you die because you weren't able to feed yourself and your family, or because somebody else killed you. So it's really, really hard to judge, as I was telling before. Maybe let's dive a little bit into characters, because I think it's a very interesting topic. So let's start off with Joel. He was the one that was very important character in the first game, because we were playing as him for the most of time, right? And he is the one that set off that shit train in action. His actions that we are learning about, we are going with it from the beginning of the first game. We were learning that relationship. We were learning his story. We were learning how that relationship with Ellie was changing. We were adapting with that. We were binding with them. It all led to that finale in the first game, with Joel killing that doctor, with them escaping the hospital, and so on, and with him lying to Ellie. And those actions were pretty shitty, but we had that answer from the game, really, that he did that because he loved Ellie. And we were all thinking that it's okay, right? But then we are in the second game. There is a lot of shitstorm. God damn it! A lot of shit about someone taking vengeance. Like, you are okay with Joel taking that vaccine from people. You are okay with him killing people, but you are not okay with someone taking vengeance after he killed Abby's father. She's not allowed to go after Joel and kill him in return. Like, that is just not fair, right? And then when Ellie is going on her vengeance, it's pretty okay, right? So even when we are judging from our perspective, we are not judging in the fair way, really. We know that Joel did pretty bad stuff. We learned that in the first game just a little bit. And then we were assured for that in the second game, when Ellie was talking a little bit about what Joel and Tommy were doing. And that is very interesting, because we are controlling person that was doing pretty bad stuff, but we were all thinking that he was good. And maybe he was good. He was good at that point of time. Or maybe he was a good man after all, right? In the very shitty world. So he had to do some certain stuff that doesn't feel like pretty normal. Because of that, I think that vengeance that Abby is doing is okay. It's hard to believe that they are killing that guy that we loved, but he did bad stuff, right? So there should be punishment. Let's go to second character. Let's go with Tommy. Tommy is very interesting in this game. In the first game, he was, I feel, a little neglected. He was that, he was about in 1 hour of the game, maybe 1 hour and a half, something like that. Or let's say maybe 2, if you consider all the stuff in the prologue and so on. And we only knew that they were going together, Joel and Tommy, at the beginning of the apocalypse, and then they argue about fireflies, and their roads went in different directions, right? Joel went to Boston, I think it was the Boston, and Tommy went off with fireflies. Then he ran away, and he was living at Jackson City, important place in the second game, right? And that's really all of it that we learned from the first game. We also learned that his wife is Maria, and she doesn't like him getting out. But yeah, that's it. In the second game, he gained so much more, and that character was so much deeper. That relationship with Joel was so much more intense. It was really cool to see that, because I thought in the first game that it wasn't fair how they treated Tommy, because he was a very important character in the life of Joel. And in the second game, they put so much more design into him, with his backstory and so on, with his decisions, with the way that he was talking, thinking, doing the stuff, right? I think that it was very cool that they did it like that. Of course, he made pretty shitty decision of going by himself on that vengeance route, but screw that, right? I really enjoyed how we saw that Tommy evolved in the second game. I really like that. Now let's go with Ellie. So, second major character in the first game, the first character really in the second game and in the DLC, and the girl that all the story is about, really. Because as I said, it's not a story about survivors in this post-apocalyptic world. It's a story about that girl Ellie, that is growing up and so on and so on. Her journey, both on the map and with the relationship, with the way she's thinking, the way she's acting, and so on and so on. And consequences of her and Joel's actions. She was very cool character in the first game, but they went much deeper in the second game, and also in the DLC. It was very cool to see how she developed, and also it was very interesting to see how she was uncovering the truth about what happened at the hospital, that Joel lied to her, how she reacted. I don't exactly feel like she did. She was right about what she was arguing with Joel, that he shouldn't save her and so on and so on. I don't quite agree with her about it, but screw that. From our perspective, it was okay for her to go on that vengeance route, to kill Abby and her friends, right? Because we were attached to Joel. But then from Abby's perspective, Joel and Ellie were the bad guys. They killed her father, right? They killed her friends. So it was right from her perspective to attack Ellie and so on and so on. But from our perspective as gamers, as people that were attached to Joel and Ellie, she was the bad guy. And I think that the game is doing a pretty good job with showing us that there are always different sides to each story. You always have that other side of the coin. From one perspective, you are a hero, and there are bad guys, right? But from their perspective, no, they are doing good stuff, right? And you are the bad guy. It's very important to think about it when you are playing this game, and also when you are judging it. And I think that the way that the game is ending, with Ellie being alone, the thing that she feared the most, being alone, is what should show you that vengeance is really bad. Because when you are doing that, you are not thinking about anything else. You don't think about your safety. You don't think about safety of the other people. You don't think about their feelings, as it was showed. Ellie wasn't, how to put it, when there was a decision to make for Ellie to go after Abby straight into the aquarium, where she thought that Abby was, or go and save Tommy, and she was sure that Tommy was there, she chose to go after Abby. When there was a lead that was pointing that Abby was in Santa Barbara, she wasn't trying even to talk about it with Dina. She was just sneaking out in the night. She was afraid of that confrontation between her and Dina, because she knew what Dina would be trying to do, to stop her, right? And even when Dina was trying to do it, Ellie resisted that. She just went on with it. And that is showing that vengeance is really shitty. What that game is showing is that going on with that vengeance route is not always good. It's pretty bad situation, because you don't care about others then. You are only concerned about yourself, your feelings, and what you should do to avenge someone. It's pretty shitty. Let's see a little bit more about Abby character, because we were really shocked that we were controlling someone else other than Ellie and Joel. Who was that girl? Why we are controlling her? What is she doing here? What the hell is going on, right? And I think that it was really interesting to see that different perspective of the story, to see the perspective of the bad guys, that we thought that they were the bad guys, but in the end it seemed like everyone is bad guy in this world. Now Abby had really interesting backstory. I wasn't even thinking that it would go out like that. She was daughter of the doctor that we killed in the hospital in Salt Lake. He was the guy that was trying to make vaccine, and Joel killed him because he was trying to open up Ellie and take out that fungi that was growing in her head. And he was probably the only guy that was able to make a cure. And yeah, that is pretty shitty. Someone, Joel, killed her father. And that is why they went after him. That is why they killed him. And seeing that was very interesting, because at first we only saw that they killed him. They just killed him, just murdered him with that golf club, right? Cold-blooded murder. They weren't even thinking about letting him go. They wrecked his knee. He was not going away with that, like, come on. So it's pretty easy to see that from the beginning of the game, everyone was against Abby because she was the bad guy. And then we learned that he as Joel, he did pretty bad stuff from her perspective. That she had her reasons for doing that, for bringing those people to Jackson and killing Joel. And I think that is very important to understand that different side of the story isn't bad, isn't good. It's the same if you look at it from the perspective of Ellie. Those are two characters with very similar story that is in the second game, concerned about vengeance. Ellie is trying to avenge Joel because Abby killed him. But Abby was doing the same. She killed Joel because he killed her father. And people are so mad at Abby that they even go out and threaten the actor that is doing the voice and mock-ups for her character. Like, come on, guys, what is going on? She was only playing. And you are angry because character in the game did something like that, but you are okay with Ellie doing the same? Even going more with that and killing all of the Abby friends? Like, come on. We are seeing that story from different perspectives. They are the same. They are doing the same bad stuff. But we are judging them differently because of our attachment. Now, if there was another game, let's say that there was Last of Us DLC, something like that was telling about Abby's story. That was like, I don't know, the same length as the Last of Us, the first game, talking about Abby's story. Imagine that. If that was telling her story, all the stuff that she was doing with the fireflies and so on, and it is ending with that scene when she is walking to that room where they were trying to cut up Ellie, and she sees her father laying on the ground, and she comes to him and she starts crying and so on and so on. And we learn that the guy that Joel killed in The Last of Us 1 was her father. Now that would put very different perspective on the second game, because after playing both the first game from the perspective of Ellie and Joel and playing another game with perspective of Abby and with probably gamers attaching to it, binding with her, that would be a very different story. Because if we had those two characters that we enjoyed playing as, that we binded with them, right? And then there was confrontation between them. That would have been very, very interesting to see how people were reacting. But from the way that Naughty Dog did that, it was pretty clear picture for most of the people. We have bad guys, we have good guys. Ellie good, Abby bad. Joel good, Abby bad, right? And it wasn't like that in reality. Let's see, what characters left we have. We have Dina. It was very interesting to see that relationship, because it started off really awkward with that one evening that we saw pretty much at the end of the game, when there was that first kiss of Ellie and Dina. Ellie wasn't feeling right in that moment. She wasn't feeling too good being in the center of attention. As she put it, everyone is watching me right now. And that was very interesting, because on the other side, very, very close, we have Dina. And she was stealing the show that night, doing all the moves, like goddamn, and then and then kissing Ellie, sorry. I was thinking about something else. And that was very interesting to see the relationship, how it was forming, what they were doing and so on. That first missions with them, as we have that cooperation as they were on that patrol, that was very, very interesting, and I really enjoyed that. Then we had that moment when they went out for that vengeance. They went into Seattle and they were exploring everything. That was so cool. At first, I wasn't so sure about the Dina character, but it was very, very short. I liked her like, god damn it. With Ellie and Joel, we were sure that we were liking them, right? Because we had so much more time to attach to them. So it was pretty natural that we were attached to them. But with Dina, we were attached from the beginning, because she was so great character, like god damn it. Then there was a very weird moment when Ellie, when Dina told Ellie that she was pregnant. And that changed the perspective a little bit. Because then Jesse showed up, father of that child that Dina was holding. That was very interesting, and Ellie was very confused. As you see throughout the game, she's really confused with relations with other people. It is kind of confusing her. She's a type of loner, or either a loner, so she likes to be with herself only, or she likes to go with someone, or like 1-2 people, something like that, not in the groups. I don't think that she's really too good with going into something like society or just a bigger group, let's put it this way. And with Dina, I think that she learned that a little bit. And it was very interesting to see that relationship between them. But then we went to the end of the game, nearly to the end, when they had that really cool life, right? They had what they wanted. Well, at least their goal, to have that house away from Jackson, away from people, just them living there, having everything there that they needed. But then it turned out that what they both thought was their goal wasn't really their goal, because Ellie had something else in mind. Ellie had that vengeance that she was looking after. And Dina didn't like that. Because of that vengeance, Jesse was killed. She was also almost killed with her baby. And that is very, very shitty. So, I mean, her leaving Ellie at the end of the game was pretty okay decision, right? I wouldn't expect anything different from her. Like going through all of that, almost dying because of that, then living, well, let's say almost a year with Ellie on that farm, thinking that it's in the past, everything that happened, that Ellie doesn't think about it anymore. And then that one night she's sneaking out, like, it was really shitty decision of Ellie. And really, this game is filled with shitty decisions of Ellie and other people, and it is showing the consequences of them. And I think that is very important to see. Because most of the times when we are playing video games or watching movies and so on, reading books, the character that we are playing, or as we are watching or reading about, is always the good guy, right? He's doing the right stuff, even if his motives are questionable. He's doing the good stuff. And his or her actions are always right, and so on and so on. And with that, we see that that's not the case. Ellie is not a hero. Ellie is just a normal person in the shitty world. And because of that, she wasn't able to end with Dina, with a good way of ending with Dina, right? So sticking up with her. The ending for Ellie is very shitty, as I was talking about. She was alone at the end. And that was very, very shitty. Okie dokie. I think that we have to talk and think more about Dina, because she was very, very cool character, and she was very, very cool. Her decisions were right. She was very, very smart, and she was helping Ellie as far as she could. But when it was enough, then she said enough, and that's okay. There were also two more characters that I would like to talk about, Yara and Lev. Their relationship, and another point of love that we can attach right now. Love between brother and sister, and also a little bit of love between parent and child. Because Lev and Yara are characters from that cultist group called Scars. That is very, very strict. That they are going back to almost medieval times, with some exceptions, right? As Lev put it, it was really, really funny that they are going back. They are not using everything that is old world and so on and so on. They're building their houses. They are, shooting bows. They are doing crops and so on and so on. Something is old world, then it's bad. But if you are a soldier, then you don't have to care about it. You can use elevator, you can use rifle, pistol, and so on and so on. And then in that strict society, that strict group led by strict rules, we've got that one character that is doing something else. And that was very interesting. As I said before, it was very subtle how they did Lev character. That we learned about her past, who she really is, from the dialogues between the enemies, and then from that little explanation by Yara. that was very, very interesting. And as I said, I missed that. If Yara didn't talk about it, then I would just miss that. He was acting like a boy. So he was a boy, even if before he was a girl. And it was played so natural, like god damn it. I cannot even believe that really happened. And then we had Yara. She was pretty good member of the society, but because of her love to her brother, she went out with him. She escaped, and then they joined Abby. They saved her life, really. And later, of course, she's dying. Very shitty moment, but also she kills Isaac. A very cool moment. I wasn't expecting that to happen, really. I was like, what the hell? How she managed to do it? But because of that, because of what happened, because of that, well, we can say that there was another shit train going on with Lev escaping to that Scar Island, and then him killing their mother. We'll talk about it in a second, and ultimately led to Yara death, and that journey with Lev and Abby. And it was very similar, like so goddamn similar to the journey that Joel and Ellie were having. So it was really one more step to further bind us with those people. And that was very, very cool, seeing their adventures, their relationship, and so on and so on. That was really, really cool. But going back a little bit with a Lev character, the relationship with their mother, that was very interesting. That she cared more about what the culture, his society around her was talking about or cared about. She was caring about it more than love of their children. And that is very, very shitty. And even then, when Lev accidentally kills their mother, he's crying because he loved her. Even though she was trying to, well, kill him or beat him, whatever. That is very, very interesting. Also, as we are talking about scars, we can kind of put them into perspective with wolves. So when we arrive at Seattle, we know that there are wolves. So Washington Liberation, something, I don't remember. Washington Liberation Front. Oh, that's that. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. We learned about those people. We know that they are bad from our perspective, not from their perspective. And they took out that quarantine zone and they're ruling in here. That's what we know. But then we learned that there are more people there. And not only some trespassers or something like that. There's a completely different culture, completely opposite to the wolves. Wolves are those heavy-armed, driving around, being very loud people, shooting to everything, killing everything, very brutal, and so on and so on. Well, there are both of those sides are brutal, so that's really not the difference. But then we learn that there are scars. Like, who are scars? From the most part of the game, we didn't even knew who were scars. Who are those people? And then we are suddenly learning that scars are that cultist group that doesn't really like everything that was from the old worlds, so pretty modern stuff, right? They're going back to the roots, back to the beginning of society. And we have that clash between those two cultures. Their different opinions, their different beliefs, their different ways of thinking. That was very cool to see. Like, god damn it. And also, it was really shining with that relationship between Yara, Lev, and Abby. and also Owen and Mel. Because they were from different cultures, but they were able to cooperate together. They were learning about each other. I really enjoyed that. And they were learning that probably their culture isn't really that right. That they are not the ones that are right. And nor are the others. They are both wrong because they don't see cooperation. Well, they had truce once, but it didn't last too long. Like, god damn it. That was very, very short, I think. I don't think we've got exact date or exact time period how long it was like that when that truce was, but I think it was pretty short because of all the differences that are between those cultures. And even that attachment to the culture was so strong that even when Scars were trying to kill Lev and Abby was calling Scars, he was still insisting on her to call them Seraphites, so their full name. That was very, very cool. Also, then we had those guys at the end, but let's not talk about them. I had a little bit more expectations about them. I was thinking about there will be some kind of arena when they are throwing people and so on, they're fighting with infected and so on. And they just turned out to be bad guys. Having slaves. So, well, okay, I understand. It was deep, really, because they were treating those people so bad that when they were escaping, when they had a chance to kill those people, they had a choice between killing those people, those bandits, and killing themselves. To not go back into those cells, into those conditions, those people are killing themselves. As we saw in the episode. It was the last one? No, it wasn't the last one. It was almost the last one. They were killing themselves because they didn't want to go back to those cells. That is crazy to think about it. Then there is also another group that we can talk about, Fireflies. So, symbol of hope from the first game. And yeah, it was really a symbol of hope from the first game. And they were looking for the light. That motto of them, that shit that they're saying, look for the light. That means look for the hope. We are hope. We will rebuild the society. And that was the goal of Ellie and Joel, to find fireflies, to find hope, to go to the end of the journey. And then in the second game, we still got it, because Owen and also Abby were looking for light. They were looking for fireflies. And that is very interesting to see, because that is just pointing to us that Ellie and Abby are very similar characters. Both because they want to find fireflies, or wanted. Both because someone they loved was killed, and because they want to avenge those people. God damn it, they are so similar. But if you look at them from the physical aspect, they're completely different. Well, other than their sex, they're both females, right? If you look at the color of their hair, it's completely different. If you look at how they are built, like Abby is so ripped, look at her muscles. And Ellie is not really that muscular. She's not really that strong, but she's smart, right? So two opposite people, but very similar if you think about it a little bit more. And I think that's all I want to talk about characters, because they were really cool. They were very deeply developed. I really enjoyed learning about them. I wish there was a little bit more about Scars and their culture and how it was born, because we learned that wolves were the guys that took over quarantine zone and so on, and they were recruiting new people and so on. But from Scars, we only knew that that one lady that Isaac ordered killing became their prophet, and they were praying to her, leaving their wishes, and so on and so on. I wish we had a little bit more information about that, but screw that. The other aspect of this game that I really enjoyed is attention to details. It was so goddamn detailed. Like, one example, it was also in the first game, but if you are turning your flashlight exactly at the face of another character, then that character is putting hand before their eyes to block that light. Every time. That is very cool. When from the combat aspect, if you place a drop mine and then an enemy is stepping on that, then let's see what is happening in the most of the games, right? When character enemy steps on the trap bomb, then what you are doing, apply ragdoll effect, launch that character in the air, and apply burn texture or something like that. In here, if someone is stepping on that trap mine, then lower half of their body is gone. There is a lot of blood and a little bit of meat everywhere. And then there is that upper part of that body laying somewhere. And that's it. If you are throwing or when you are shooting that exploding arrow at someone, then there's nothing left of them. There's, well, let's put it in different way. Everything that is left, you cannot really recognize it was human because there's just like pieces of meat laying everywhere and also blood. Or if you kill a character in the water, that way that the blood is going out of the body into the water, and how it's not just paint that water red, it's slowly diffusing. That is so good. Or the reflections with the light. That game is looking so good. Those textures, those environments, every location was so detailed. And it wasn't just feeling like it was leveled as designed like that. It was feeling like actual places that were once occupied by people, that they were living here. It was so goddamn cool. Also the sound design, like goddamn it. I'm very often listening to the soundtrack from the first game. And now I know that I'm also listening a lot to the soundtrack of the second game. Those are so good. Those, like, it is so goddamn good. It was very, very cool. Also, when we were talking about sound, one important or interesting thing that I would like to point out is on YouTube I saw that there were people covering songs, like real world songs, in The Last of Us 2. When you have that little moment when you can practice guitar, you can do everything with that. You can do every possible song that guitar can make. And you can play every song that can be played on the guitar well. That is very, very cool. I really enjoy seeing that.
What was that?
Nothing.
Well, nothing sure sounds nice.
Remember that night by the bonfire?
Yeah.
Talking away. I don't know
Needless to say, I'm odds and ends, but I'll be stumbling away, slowly learning that life is okay. Say after me, it's no better to be safe than sorry. Take on me. Take me on. I'll be gone in a day or two.
But if you go with attention to details, what they did so good was the enemies, infected, how they were designed. Like, for example, if you look at clickers from the first game, they were so scary because they were looking like humans, but they weren't acting like humans. They were acting like animals. Well, all of the infected are acting like animals, but they were so alien to the people. They were so different. They were making those noises. They were using echolocation and so on. They were so scary in the first game. But then there comes the second game. And they are much, much worse because they are much more detailed. You can see everything, especially when they are introduced in the second game. With that scene that Ellie and Dina are falling through the floor, and Dina is trying to get Ellie out of that piece of wood and so on, and then Clicker is coming, and you have that direct light at his face and his body, and you can see all the details. Like, god damn it, that is so cool. Also, I was talking about it in my Let's Play. There were so many moments in that game that it seemed like, from the perspective of gamers, players, that game was telling "fuck you." Like, for example, they killed Joel. You remember Joel, right? That cool character from the first game? Well, look at it. He's dying in here. All when we were meeting stalkers. So it was almost like the game was trying to say, hey, you remember that cool, overpowered ability that you had in the first game? That hearing ability, that listening mode, that would let you see the enemies through the walls. You remember that, right? It was pretty cool, right? You have that back in that second game. But, oh no, there are enemies that you cannot see through the walls, that you cannot hear. Hello, meet stalkers. And god damn it, those were very cool enemies. I hated them, but I loved them. That design, that way that they were creeping around the corners. Oh my god, that was so cool. Also, another fuck you moment. Hey, you thought that there were only 3 types of infected? Like runners, clickers, bloaters? You thought that was true, right? We are also seeing that in that one document in the quarantine zone when we were entering Seattle. It was talking about those 3 phases of infection and so on and so on. But then, fuck you, there are more of them. We have stalkers, we have shamblers. Shamblers, god damn it, what was that? As one character on the note pointed out, it looks like something that was trying to evolve into bloater, but turned in the middle. Like, what the hell? And that was very interesting to see, because those creatures, those monsters, those enemies were evolving. They were changing. And that was very cool. And then we also had the craziest monster in the game. I wasn't expecting that at all. I was saying through the whole game that I want to see infected animals. We had a little bit of hint of that in the first game, when we had those in monkeys that they were testing the vaccine and so on, and they were infected, and then they escaped, and there was one doctor being beaten by them, and because of that he was also infected, right? So we knew that it was possible to infect animals. But I was saying through the whole game, let there be infected wolves, tigers, bears, something like that. I want to see that. And well, it turned out that it wasn't true. But there was something much, much worse and much, much better at the same time. That infected that patient zero, or even few patient zeros fused together. Because if you think about it, then it was pretty normal to us to figure out that if those infected are lying for too long on the floor, then they are just fusing with the wall, with that fungi growing and so on and so on. So what if we put few infected together and we close them for a really long time? Remember that location that we were in with that big monster, it was location when the infection started. First infected were put there. So they had a really long time to fuse together. And because of that, it evolved into that. So we can see that that fungi is so clever that it can adapt, it can evolve, it can fuse together those things. So that was so cool. And that running away from it scene, that scene where that one being from that monster is going away, running, he's stalker, but a little bit more dangerous, and so on and so on. That was so cool. It was like for sure the coolest enemy in the game. And that was very cool boss fight. In the first game, we didn't really have that boss fights. Like, we could say that every bloater was a boss fight, right? And then we had that guy, that cannibal, that we were fighting with, and he was a boss fight. In The Last of Us 2, you have so many boss fights. We have all of those scars with those hammers and so on that we have to knock out and kill in a very interesting way with that hammer. And bloaters were also put back as boss fights again. Shambles weren't really a boss fight, I don't think so. It were just very hard to kill enemies and very dangerous. But also we had that big monster that we were trying to kill, and we killed him eventually. And then the boss fight at the end. And also not in the end. Well, those boss fights in as Abby and Ellie. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that we were fighting with Ellie when we were controlling Abby. And then I wasn't thinking that there would be the last fight in the game was between those two girls. I thought that we would just kill Abby. And it turned out it was not true. That we were fighting with her. That was really... Well, those fights with people, well, let me put it in this way. I didn't like that because, from the story perspective, it was pretty cool. And I loved everything about it. But I felt like it was kind of forced how they made us do all the dodges, because if you don't dodge, then you cannot attack that person, right? Because if you're just attacking, then they are blocking every possible hit. Or I was just so unlucky with that. But those boss fights were very, very cool, and I enjoyed them. And god damn it. I think that it's time to end this right now in this talk. It's going on for a long time. And my point with all of that is to say that it was a really cool game. There are reasons for people to get mad. But at least try to understand why they did that, why they had those design choices, why they went this way or not the other. Like, we were all sure that they would be trying to shock us one more time. In the first game, we had those seasons, right? Pretty much every season was ending with death of someone. Pretty much every major part of that game was ending either with someone dying or someone almost dying. And with death of Sarah at the beginning of The Last of Us 1, it was so goddamn shocking, like goddamn it. So there was no other way to go with something that will not shock you. Like, come on, we were all expecting that. I heard that the spoilers that were going around the internet about The Last of Us 2 were that Joel will die. And goddamn it, I'm so grateful that I didn't saw that spoiler. I would be so mad about it. Like, goddamn it. But yeah, I think that if you are trying to judge that game, first of all, think about all the effort that people put into that game, producing it. And second of all, think about it more as of judging the story. The whole story that we had with the first game, the DLC, and then the second game. How it is all connected. How the game is showing that actions have consequences. That there's nothing like bad guy and good guy. You cannot just put those people into two different baskets. Here we are putting bad guys, here we are putting good guys. It is not working like that in that world and also in reality. You don't have people that are straight good or straight bad. People are mixed. There's always different side of the story. If you hear two people arguing, you most often you will pick one side. You think that that person is right. But how often do you look at the other side? How often do you ask them what is their perspective, what they are thinking, what is their story about the situation? We tend to not look at it at all because we are judging people so fast. We think that the way that we are thinking is the only way that is good thinking, right? The only way that is right. It's not like that. There are different people. There are different opinions. They are different ways of thinking. If something is right for you, it doesn't mean that it's right for other people. If you think that something is a good idea, it might be a shitty idea for other people. If you think that it is good because it will have good consequences for you, good results, it might have bad consequences for other people. But we tend to not look at it at all because we are looking from that one perspective. We are really one-track mind with that. And that is very shitty. And game showed us how stupid we are. We are only humans. We make mistakes. But we are judging people and we are forgetting about it. We are forgetting that on the other side there are also people who are also making decisions, very shitty decisions sometimes, who are making those choices that for us are bad, but from their perspective they are good. From our perspective, someone is good or someone is bad, but it's the same from the other side. And that is the message of the game. Don't judge people because they have different opinions. Don't judge them because the way that they love somebody and because they are gay or something like that, because they made that decision. Don't judge only because of that. Gain a little bit more perspective, learn a little bit more story, get to know them a little bit more. When you have a little bit more information, then it turns out that the judgment that you did wasn't right, really. Because, as I said, there is always different side of the story. And if something is bad from your perspective, it doesn't mean that it's bad for everyone. And other than seeing that in the game, like from the vengeance perspective and so on, we can see it right now as people are so mad at the game. They are giving those low scores, they are threatening actors, directors, people that work on this game, because they didn't like that, because they think that those people that worked on that game are bad, because they have different opinion, because they saw that game as something different. They didn't saw that game as something that they will do to please players, because they liked first game, because they are expecting something like another journey with Joe and Ellie. They were looking at that game as a way to tell a story, as a way to tell that we are shitty people. We all make shitty decisions, and there are consequences, and there is always other side of the story. And now we are proving that they are right because of our actions, because we are so mad, because we don't like that we have a gay character, because we have a transsexual character, because that character killed the character that we loved. And people, when they are doing that, and they don't realize that they are proving those people that work on that game that they're right, that we are judging people way too fast, that we are thinking that we are always right, that we are thinking that our perspective, our opinion, our way of thinking is the only one that is right. And I think that is the main message from the game. Other than love is very complex, journey could be really shitty and have different meanings, that vengeance is a very shitty decision, and that you should care a little bit more about people around you, to listen to them more, to think not only about yourself, your emotions, but also think how they are feeling about it. Even if you think that you hate that person, even if they did something bad, don't judge them. Or at least think about it more. Don't go immediately with hating, with killing, attacking someone. Do a little bit more thinking. Think about it from their perspective. See it through their perspective, through their own eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for watching. I know that it's really, really long, and probably not many people waited till the end. But if you did, thank you. Thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.
I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. But I would like to try.
I like that.
Okay. I'll see you around.
Yep.